Time for the super.
Yep, let's do it. Dive in. Let me know.
Okay. So the very first super GPU of 3 this month is here. And as I wrote in my review of the Founders Edition model of the GeForce RTX 4070 Super, is that the first RTX 40 Super GPU is here. And if the 4070 Super is any indication, we're in for a wild ride as exceptional 1440p performance meets next level efficiency.
Oof.
So this is a brilliant release from probably the most impressive GeForce launch from NVIDIA since the 4090 for a number of reasons. But I'll just say like one cool one is that the Founders Edition card and the Inno3D Twin X2 card that I reviewed, they're both using the reference specs for the 4070 Super. But they're 2-slot cards that are light and don't draw that much power, don't generate too much heat. So it hits a performance class and a potential mass market size that we haven't seen before in a while. So when you think of like 3090 levels of performance, which is what this delivers in most cases, 3090 graphics cards are huge, right? Because they're kind of like the flagship prototypes. So this is like one of the first sort of like, not the first, but like this is like a GPU release that takes something that was previously like this huge, massive thing, shrinks it down, makes it more compact, makes it more mass market. And where usually when we see with GPUs, it's always prototypes. It's always like, here's chunky coolers, here's like super power, and then 2 years later, we do the same thing.
This is refined.
This is like refined. This is like a proper refresh.
Yeah.
And so spec-wise, it's got like 20% more cores, CUDA cores, 20% more RT cores, 20% more Tensor AI cores than the regular 4070. And outside of that, the clock speeds are pretty much the same by default. The memory configuration is pretty much the same in terms of its 12 gig of the fast GDDR6X, but they've increased the L2 cache, and L2 cache is kind of like is now 48 meg. It basically reduces memory traffic, and it makes games makes performance more stable. So you're like, when frame rates dip, they don't dip as drastically because you've got that buffer of more like memory, and that's sort of like something that you find more on like CPUs. Like Ryzen has like big cache, like the 3D stacked V cache. The reason why they're good for games because you got that extra memory like right there that you can constantly. That is like, like light speed levels of speed compared to like trying to call on actual like system RAM and stuff like that, or VRAM.
Makes the handshakes more stable.
Exactly. And so the 4070 Super at 1440p is faster than a 3090.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now.
It is. So this is like the reference card. So I'm also reviewing, by the time this episode goes live, is the Asus TUF gaming model, right? And that's like a 3-fan, triple slot, like chunky card. But it looks good.
4090.
It's a great GPU that you can fit in a card. But it's because it's a 4070 Super, it's lighter than, like a 4080 TUF or a 4090 TUF, even though it's it's not as big as those, but it's still pretty big. But it's lightweight, and it runs incredibly cool. Like, that's like obviously cooler than these because it's got more heat sinks and more fans and stuff. But that is overclocked, and that one outperforms the Founders Edition here by a noticeable amount, not a huge amount, but like enough to make you go, oh, maybe I'll get an OC model, because that pushes performance even higher in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So basically, if the Radeon 7800 XT was AMD's play for like a more affordable 4070 that didn't quite match it in ray tracing performance, but outperformed it in non-ray tracing performance in most cases. The 4070 Super is more expensive than the 7800 XT, but it is more powerful in every single test, and its ray tracing performance is in a way higher tier. And plus, you've got the added bonus of the premium that you would pay for DLSS, which is the gold standard for upscaling, NVIDIA's frame generation, which is more impressive than AMD's frame generation so far, but both are obviously still early, so they're not everywhere, and it's not something that you would always enable. But then you got like that new reconstruction so ray tracing now looks like way better than it did, and that's exclusive as well. So there's like a lot of little things that they've released in between, like, you know, when the 40 series first launched, you know, DLSS 3 is now in a lot of games, and it's something that a lot of people are embracing. Frame gen, you know, AMD have got their version out now, Intel have got their version out, so it is a thing that's here to stay. So it's not like it's not a passing fad. And DLSS obviously. So like even like, you know, at 4K, the 15 game average is like 73 FPS on the 4070 Super Founders Edition. So obviously, you know, like the 4090 is a triple digit 4K card, but this is like a 4K 60 card. That's without DLSS. With DLSS, you can comfortably hit in like the high 80s, 90s with ultra settings, things maxed out in 4K in a 2-slot card that's only drawing 200 watts of power, which is 40+% less than the 3090.
That's so impressive.
30% less than the 7800 XT, while outperforming it than AMD's card.
Wow.
It's, you know, so like as a complete package, like it is damn impressive.